Kalen stepped off the narrow walkway of the transport hub and blinked against the sudden glow. Around him, the air shimmered with living light. He was somewhere he didn't recognize, a vast hall of twisting crystal spires that pulsed in colors he didn't have names for. Somewhere above, a soft hum filled the air like the song of 1,000 voices. His phone buzzed in his hand, the map app still glowing insistently. He followed it without thinking. The walkway opened into a vast chamber where hundreds of beings moved in flowing patterns, their shapes shifting in luminous waves. Laughter and music blended into a strange harmony. Kalen froze at the edge of the crowd. Shapes bent, shimmered, and twisted around him, beings dressed in robes that seemed alive. He had no idea where he was or why the map app had brought him here. Two gelatinous figures detached themselves from the crowd and floated toward him. One had a head shaped like a crescent moon, shimmering silver. The other rippled in translucent gold. They whispered in a language he couldn't understand, their voices bubbling like water. A strange device on their wrists flickered, and suddenly his polylinguator kicked in, translating. "Is that the human?" Kalen blinked. I think so." The silver one, Mirox, grinned wide, stretching part of himself into a loop. "Perfect." He gestured toward the golden one, Lanth. They both began to laugh in low, musical tones. "He's walking right into it." Kalen had no idea what it was. He followed them farther into the hall where dozens of others were gathered. A sudden hush fell. The crowd parted, and he was in the center of an enormous circular space. Lights pulsed rhythmically underfoot. Mirox's voice rang out, translated. "Friends of Zephyra IX, behold the human." Gasps of delight and laughter echoed around him. Kalen looked around, utterly confused. The shapes of the crowd shimmered toward him, some stretching long and thin, others coiling in arcs of color. At the far end, a figure detached herself from the mass, a tall, radiant being whose form shifted constantly, trailing ribbons of light. Zyra. The laughter in her voice was sharp, curious. She drifted closer, eyes fixed on him. "This is amusing," she said. Kalen opened his mouth to answer but found himself silenced by laughter not cruel but warm and teasing. The entire circle seemed to hum with expectation. Mirox grinned wider. "Yes, yes. This is perfect. You do not see it yet, human. You have been chosen." Kalen frowned. "Chosen for what?" Lanth's laughter rippled across the chamber. "To dance, to be celebrated, to be the legend." Before he could process the words, the floor beneath him shifted. Lights brightened. Music swelled into a living pulse. Figures began moving around him, forming patterns of radiant motion. A pathway of living crystal unfurled toward the center. Kalen felt himself drawn forward, as if the whole floor was inviting him to step into it. "Wait," he said. "I don't." But a hand, or something like a hand of shimmering light, closed around his wrist and gently pulled him forward. Mirox and Lanth hovered beside him, still laughing quietly. The crowd parted completely, leaving a perfect circle around him. The music rose. Zyra approached, her shifting form rippling with colors that pulsed in time with her voice. "You've never been to Zephyra IX before." "No," Kalen admitted. "I think I got here by accident." Her smile widened, twisting strangely in ways that made Kalen uneasy. "That's the best kind of entrance." Before he could ask what she meant, the floor beneath him shifted again. Crystal lights spiraled upward, forming a glowing stage. The crowd's laughter rose to a chorus, and Kalen realized they were chanting something in unison, something about the human. Mirox leaned close. "Tonight, you are the human they will remember." Kalen swallowed. "I don't know if I want to be remembered." Lanth's voice was soft, teasing. "You don't get to choose anymore." The lights flared, the music swelled, and Zyra extended her hand toward him. "Come on, let's see what you're made of." Kalen hesitated, then stepped onto the stage. The moment his foot touched the crystal floor, the crowd erupted into laughter, cheers, and applause. Somewhere in the back, Headmaster Vale's voice rang out, deep, calm, and watching. "Let the dance begin." The circle closed around him. the music pulsing like a heartbeat, and Kalen knew this was no ordinary prank. Mirox and Land hovered beside Kalen as the applause faded into a ripple of laughter. The crowd still formed a perfect ring around him, shifting and shimmering, their eyes, or whatever they called eyes, fixed on him. Zyra lingered at the edge of the circle, watching, smiling, but her shape was still changing, twisting in slow patterns of light that made Kalen uneasy. Mirox leaned closer, his gelatinous form pulsing in faint silver. His voice, translated, was low and amused. "You have no idea what's happening, do you, human?" Kalen shook his head. "No, I thought I just wandered in here." Land's golden form rippled as she laughed softly. "That's why it's perfect. The Academy thrives on spectacle, and you just stepped into one. You are now the centerpiece." Kalen glanced at Zyra. She was studying him now, her shifting shape folding into something like a grin. She stepped forward, her voice a melody that somehow made every word hang in the air. "They've chosen you as the human of the night. A joke, yes, but a joke that will become legend." Before Kalen could respond, Mirox spread his form wide, his voice rising so that the whole hall could hear. "Citizens of Zephyra IX, we present to you the human. Not by trial, not by invitation, but by fate." The crowd responded with laughter and shimmering patterns that pulsed in waves. Kalen blinked and realized they were cheering, not jeering. A strange warmth settled over him despite his confusion. Zyra drifted closer, her voice teasing. "They say laughter is the highest compliment here. You are being honored." Kalen frowned. "I don't feel honored. I feel confused," Zyra finished for him. Her laughter was soft and curious. "Good. Confusion makes you dangerous." Mirox and Land exchanged a glance, then drifted toward the edges of the circle, whispering. Kalen could not hear their words clearly, but their tone was deliberate and conspiratorial. Suddenly, the music changed. A deep rhythmic beat rose beneath them, like a living pulse. The crowd's movement altered, becoming a slow, coordinated wave that seemed designed to focus attention on him. The floor beneath Kalen began to shift, pulling him forward toward a platform that had risen without warning. Kalen stopped. "Wait, what's happening?" Land's voice drifted over from behind him, smooth and teasing. "The dance begins. You cannot stop it now." Zyra extended her hand. "Come with me." Kalen hesitated. The crowd watched. The air felt heavy, filled with anticipation. He stepped forward reluctantly, his foot touching the crystal floor of the platform. Light rippled under him, and a quiet hum resonated in his bones. From somewhere in the crowd, laughter rose again, this time deeper, layered. Mirox's voice echoed in Kalen's mind through his polylinguator. "This was never about you, human. It's about the story we will tell tomorrow." Zyra's hand rested lightly on his arm. Her shifting glow pulsed slower, as if testing him. "Do you know how rare humans are here?" Kalen shook his head. "I didn't even know humans were known here." She smiled. "They are. But not like this. You've walked into a story we never wrote." Mirox moved to the edge of the circle, raising his form high. "Let the games begin." His voice was both challenge and invitation. The platform beneath Kalen split into smaller floating stages. Kalari dancers began to move around him in intricate patterns of light, their bodies folding and stretching in ways that made the air shimmer. Music rose again, richer and deeper, carrying voices in harmonies Kalen could not identify. Zyra moved beside him, her form shifting into something delicate, translucent, almost flame-like. "You have a choice," she said softly, though her voice carried clearly across the crowd. "You can step down now, or you can join us." Kalen looked at her. The laughter from the crowd was no longer teasing, it was expectant, hungry. He swallowed. "What do you mean, join?" She tilted her glowing head. "Dance." The word hung in the air like a command. Kalen's mind raced. He had never danced like this before, not in front of anyone, especially not an entire alien academy. His fingers twitched, uncertain, but the pull of the moment was too strong. He stepped fully onto the central platform. The crowd shifted again, their shapes flowing like liquid light, surrounding him in a ring of energy. Zyra stepped closer, her hand still extended. "This will not be easy," she said, "but neither was arriving here." Kalen gave a small nod, his voice quiet. "Then I'll try." She smiled, and for the first time her form stilled enough for him to see something like curiosity, maybe admiration, in her expression. The music swelled again. Mirox's voice rang out. "Remember this moment, Zephyra IX. For tonight, the human stands at the heart of our dance." The crowd erupted. Shapes shifted faster, colors exploding into patterns Kalen could not follow. Zyra took his hand. "Come on," she said. Kalen stepped forward. The platform pulsed under their feet. The dance had begun. And somewhere deep in the hall, Headmaster Vale's voice rang out. "Watch closely. This is no ordinary human." The moment Kalen stepped fully onto the glowing platform, the world shifted. The music changed again, slower, deeper, a living pulse that seemed to enter his chest. The crowd moved in a vast ripple of light, closing in closer, their forms folding and stretching in patterns that made his head spin. Zyra kept her hand on his, guiding him toward the center. "Relax," she whispered. Her voice carried easily, though it was soft, and the translation hummed in his ears. "The crowd feeds on your uncertainty." Kalen's heart pounded. "I don't even know what I'm doing." "That's why they love it." The first movement of the dance began without ceremony. Zyra stepped forward, her body folding into a cascade of shimmering ribbons, her glow pulsing in time with the music. Kalen stumbled slightly under her guidance, but she steadied him, her touch warm and firm. Around them the crowd shifted faster, circling, their laughter now a low, steady hum rather than sharp amusement. Mirox floated to the edge of the circle, arms stretched wide, his voice carrying, "Watch, friends, the human dares to join." The crowd responded with a rising chorus of shapes and sounds, shimmering into a complex wave of movement. Kalen looked down at his feet and realized the platform beneath him was responding, lifting, lowering, and changing its shape in rhythm to the dance. It felt like stepping on a living organism. Zyra's voice came again. "The dance here is not just movement, it is storytelling. Every step you take tells something about yourself. What will you say?" Kalen swallowed. "I don't know." She laughed softly. "Then speak with your feet." He tried. The first step was awkward, but something about the crowd watching seemed to ground him. He began to move more naturally, letting instinct take over. The platform shifted beneath him in smooth pulses, as if breathing with him. Zyra's form mirrored his movements, folding around him, amplifying his steps with bursts of light. The crowd's hum rose to applause, not the polite kind, but something heavier, more charged. Kalen heard whispers through his polylinguator, words he didn't understand, but their tone was curious, reverent even. From somewhere in the hall, Mirox laughed. "This is no longer a prank. This is art." Land drifted closer, her golden form twisting in slow spirals. "They'll remember this night, not the joke, the human." Zyra glanced at Kalen, her expression unreadable. "You're changing the dance. Not because you planned it, but because you refuse to follow their rules." Kalen frowned. "Their rules?" She tilted her head, her form flickering. "Our rules. Zephyra IX, something else?" Kalen asked, uncertain. "Yes, a story worth keeping." The music shifted again, slower now, more deliberate. The platform beneath Kalen pulsed softly, and he felt a subtle pressure, as if urging him forward. Zyra let go of his hand and stepped back. "Dance for them, human," she said quietly. "Not for me, not for them, for yourself." Kalen hesitated. The weight of the crowd's gaze pressed down on him. Somewhere deep in his chest, a calm settled. "Okay," he said softly. He stepped forward. The crowd stirred instantly, shapes shifting in slow ripples. The energy in the hall deepened. Every step Kalen took seemed to change the pattern of the floor, sending waves of light outward that bent toward the edges of the room. The murmuring of the crowd rose into a chorus, low and uncertain. Mirox drifted closer, watching him with sharp interest. "They are debating, human. They cannot decide. You've upset the order of things." Kalen's voice was quiet but certain. Maybe they need to. Zyra's light pulsed brightly beside him. Bold words, I like it. From somewhere high above, a deep voice rang out. Headmaster Vale's tone was calm, almost neutral, but it carried across the hall like thunder. This is unprecedented. The crowd shifted again, their movement folding into something tighter, more focused. Shapes leaned forward, stretching in toward Kalen. Some began to glow brighter, others dimmed, but all eyes were on him. A figure stepped forward from the crowd, tall, luminous, its form folding in sharp angles. A voice spoke that Kalen barely heard, but the polylinguator translated. This human refuses to play. That is dangerous. Land's laughter floated up behind him, soft and knowing. Dangerous is delicious. Kalen glanced toward Zyra. What does that mean? She said nothing at first. Her form folded tightly, almost like a flame curling inward. Then she spoke softly. It means they see you differently now. Not a joke, not an intruder, something new. Mirox's laughter cut through the tension. A disruption. The murmuring grew louder. 100 voices layered into one, curiosity, challenge, debate. The crowd began to ripple again, closing in toward the platform until Kalen was the absolute center. Shapes bent low around him, some forming arcs of light, others whispering to one another. Zyra stepped beside him again. They are deciding your fate. Kalen swallowed hard. My fate. Yes, every dance here is a choice. You've made yours without knowing it. Now they must choose theirs. From somewhere deep in the crowd, a voice, more forceful than the others, rang out. Let him speak through the dance. A hush fell. Then the entire hall seemed to lean closer. The platform pulsed once more, brighter this time, as if breathing with him. Kalen took a breath and stepped forward again. This time his movement was slower, deliberate. Every step echoed across the platform, the floor shifting beneath him in radiant waves. Shapes bent toward him as he moved, their whispers rising into a chorus. Zyra watched quietly, her glow steady beside him. Mirox and Land drifted back into the crowd, their laughter softer now, replaced by curiosity. From above, Headmaster Vale's voice came again, deep and calm. The human is no longer a joke. Watch closely, Zephyra IX. This will change us. The murmuring grew louder, the crowd shifting, bending closer to the platform. Kalen felt the weight of every gaze. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he realized something startling. They were no longer watching a prank. They were watching a choice being made. Zyra's hand found his again. Do you understand what you've done? She asked softly. Kalen shook his head. Not yet. She smiled faintly, her light pulsing warmly. Then dance. Let them decide. The platform pulsed again beneath his feet. The crowd leaned in. The hum of the hall rose into something vast, deliberate, and alive. Kalen stepped forward. The choice was his. And somewhere deep in the crowd, laughter was gone. The platform beneath Kalen pulsed with a slow, steady rhythm, as though it had learned his heartbeat. The crowd around him had grown silent, their shifting forms folding in closer, bending toward him as if leaning to hear something they could not yet name. Zyra remained at his side, her glow steady, almost watchful. They've stopped treating this as a joke, she said softly, her voice carrying just to him. Now they're testing you. Kalen glanced at her. Testing me how? She tilted her head, her shifting glow folding inward. By seeing what you do next. By forcing you to decide what kind of human you are. Before Kalen could ask what she meant, the music shifted again. It became sharper, layered with unfamiliar harmonies pulling him forward. The platform beneath him shifted, tilting slightly, not dangerously, but enough to demand focus. The shapes of the crowd bent into something tighter, almost like a wall of living light. From somewhere behind them, Mirox's voice rang out, sharp and amused. Yes, test him. Let's see if the human dances with fear or with purpose. Land's laughter floated up softly, weaving through the hum of the hall. He doesn't even know they're testing him. That's what makes this interesting. Kalen swallowed. He could feel the weight of the crowd's attention pressing down on him. Somewhere deep in him, a steady calm began to grow. He took a breath and stepped forward again. Zyra moved beside him, her form folding into a ripple of light. "Don't just move, human, speak." Kalen frowned. "Speak with movement." She nodded. "Every dance here is speech. Show them who you are." The crowd bent closer, their forms shifting with anticipation. Kalen felt their curiosity like a tangible pressure. He stepped forward again, slowly this time, each footfall deliberate. The platform beneath him responded, glowing brighter with each step. Light spread outward in ripples. The shapes around him bent closer still, their voices rising into a low hum. Zyra stepped back, watching him. "They are waiting for meaning." "Do you have one?" Kalen glanced up. "Meaning? I guess I just want them to see me as I am." Her smile was faint, curious. "That's dangerous. You will make them choose." Mirax's voice broke in again, sharper now. "A choice, already. They've barely begun to understand him." Kalen moved again, slower now, letting his steps flow naturally. The crowd's murmuring grew louder, their forms folding closer like a living tide. Somewhere in the edges of the circle, whispers began to ripple through the hall. Kalen caught fragments. "He doesn't follow the games. He moves with truth. Is he even aware?" Zyra's hand found his again. Her light pulsed gently. "They're calling it a challenge. You are rewriting the dance." Kalen frowned, unsure what to say. Instead, he stepped more deliberately, letting his body move with quiet intention. The platform beneath him pulsed with brighter light. Shapes bent inward, murmuring, intensifying. Mirax drifted closer, his voice softer now but filled with sharp amusement. "They don't know whether to laugh or bow. That is why this is beautiful." Kalen glanced around. The crowd was no longer just watching, they were waiting. The energy in the hall felt like a held breath. Somewhere in the shifting lights, he sensed movement that wasn't random, a deliberate tightening of focus. Zyra's voice came close. "They are testing your calm. They want to see if you falter, they will push you." Kalen nodded slowly. "Then I won't falter." She smiled faintly. "Good, then prove it." The platform shifted sharply again, tilting beneath him. A burst of sound rose sharp, almost like a challenge. The crowd gasped collectively. Shapes bent forward, leaning in, murmuring in layered voices. A tall figure stepped from the crowd, its form folding into sharp edges, glowing faintly. The voice that came from it was like stone and wind combined. "Human, will you dance without faltering when we push you?" Kalen looked up at the figure calmly. "I don't know what you mean by push, but I will continue." The figure's glow shifted. Around Kalen, the crowd moved again, closing tighter. The platform beneath him began to rise, carrying him higher. Shapes bent inward, murmuring. The music deepened, vibrating in his bones. Zyra's voice came softly. "They will push now. Show them your truth." Kalen took a breath. His steps slowed, each one deliberate, steady. The crowd's hum grew to a chorus, layered and intense. Light rippled outward from his feet, folding into the shapes around him. Zyra mirrored him beside him, her glow pulsing in time with his heartbeat. Mirax's voice echoed from somewhere in the crowd. "This is no longer a dance. It is a trial." Kalen glanced at Zyra. "Then I'll face it." She nodded once, her form folding softly. "Then dance, human. Show them who you are." The platform pulsed beneath him, the crowd leaning closer, their murmuring growing into a deliberate chorus. Somewhere Headmaster Vale's voice rang out again, calm and deep. "Watch closely. The human answers." Kalen stepped forward, the circle tightened. Shapes bent toward him. Light and sound rippled through the hall, he danced. And the crowd held its breath. The hum in the hall had grown heavier. The crowd no longer moved as one body but divided subtly into shifting factions. Shapes bent toward one another in low murmurs, folding into clusters, their voices folding over each other. Somewhere deeper in the hall, a ripple of laughter broke, but it was sharper now, edged with challenge. Kalen stood on the glowing platform, breathing steadily. The pulse beneath him matched his heartbeat, slow and deliberate. Zyra's hand rested lightly on his shoulder, her glow steady beside him. She did not speak, but her eyes studied him with an intensity that made him uneasy. From the edge of the crowd, Mirok stepped forward, his silver form folding into sharp angles. His voice rang out clearly, translated. Enough of this calm. They want chaos. They want the spectacle. This human is teaching us something dangerous. Land's laughter cut in, light and teasing, but her glow pulsed harder. Dangerous is irresistible. Watch closely, friends. The human will force us to choose. The crowd rippled again. Clusters of shapes leaned forward, murmuring louder. The words he caught were curious, questioning, some sharp and skeptical. He ignores the games, he refuses the challenge. Is this defiance? Or is he rewriting what dance means? Zyra stepped closer to Kalen. They're debating now, not whether you're a joke, but whether you belong here at all. Kalen frowned. I don't even know what I belong to here. She smiled faintly. That's what makes this interesting. From somewhere deeper in the crowd, a voice rose sharply. The human is changing the rules. This is not a dance, it is a challenge to tradition. The shapes around him rippled, some folding tightly as if in agreement, others unfurling in protest. Mirox's voice rang out again, sharper now. This is no longer sport. It is a trial of power. Zyra's glow pulsed brighter beside Kalen. They're testing you again, not just your calm, your claim to belong here. Kalen swallowed. Then I'll show them. He stepped forward deliberately. The platform shifted beneath him, rising slightly, tilting so that the crowd's murmuring folded into a low chorus of expectation. Zyra stepped beside him, her light bending softly toward him. Mirox called from the crowd, his voice carrying, "Let them test him openly. Let this night decide his fate." Shapes bent together, murmuring in layered voices. The hall seemed to hum deeper now, as though something significant was forming in their attention. Kalen felt it too, the weight of their choice pressing down. Zyra's voice was quiet beside him. They're splitting now. Half think you're a disruption worth following. Half want you removed before you change everything. Kalen glanced at her. Why would they care what I do? She smiled faintly. Because you refuse to play their game, that makes you dangerous. From somewhere high above, Headmaster Vale's voice rang out deep and calm. A murmur rose through the crowd. Some shapes folded sharply, others unfurled. The air felt charged like a held breath. Mirox stepped forward, his silver form gleaming. The human speaks with clarity, that makes them dangerous. Land's laughter echoed softly, almost a ripple in the air. Dangerous is the scent of change. Zyra's glow pulsed beside Kalen. They are testing you again, not with steps or dance but with challenge. They want you to prove your claim to stand here. Kalen swallowed. Then I will prove it. The tall figure stepped forward again, its light sharpened. Then answer, will you dance their dance or make your own? Kalen glanced at Zyra. She said nothing, only nodded slightly. I will dance my own, Kalen said quietly. The murmuring rose instantly, folding through the crowd like a wave. Shapes bent forward in sharp arcs, voices rising. Half of them shifted closer to the platform, their forms glowing bright, others pulled back, folding into darker tones. A deliberate divide had formed. Mirox's voice broke through, sharp and amused. Now the trial begins. The platform beneath Kalen pulsed sharply, lifting him higher. Shapes bent inward, folding toward him, murmuring layered sounds that Kalen could not fully parse. The air felt heavier now, charged with decision. Zyra stepped beside him, her glow folding around him like a shield. They are asking themselves whether you are here to break tradition or to lead it. Kalen looked at her, and what do you think? She smiled faintly. That depends on you. From somewhere deeper in the crowd, the tall figure spoke again. Then show us, lead or yield. Kalen took a breath. The platform beneath him pulsed brighter. Shapes bent closer still, murmuring louder, folding inward in deliberate patterns. The energy of the hall seemed to focus entirely on him. He stepped forward. Each movement felt deliberate, charged with quiet purpose. The crowd's murmuring shifted into a chorus, some voices sharp, others low and questioning. Zyra mirrored him, her light bending toward his steps. Mirox and Land drifted back into the crowd, their forms folding quietly, watching him with keen interest. From above, Headmaster Vale's voice rang out, deep and calm. The trial is here. The human must decide and Zephyra IX must follow. Kalen paused at the center of the platform. Shapes bent closer, folding toward him, their murmurs rising into deliberate sound. Zyra's glow pulsed softly beside him. "They're waiting for you to lead," she said. "Not just with your steps, but with your choice." Kalen's voice was steady. "Then I choose to stand, not to follow, not to yield, but to stand as I am." A hush fell over the crowd. Shapes bent inward so close it felt as if the air itself was holding its breath. Somewhere in the murmur, words formed clearly. "The human claims the center. Will you let them?" The tall figure stepped forward, light folding sharp and deliberate. Its voice rang clearly. "Then let them prove it." Kalen stepped forward again. His movement was slow, deliberate, certain. The platform pulsed beneath him. Light spread outward in ripples. The crowd bent inward. Zyra's hand found his again. "This is it," she said softly. "Your moment." Kalen glanced around. The crowd was no longer divided entirely. They were leaning forward, watching him as though the answer to something greater rested in his next step. He drew a breath and stepped once more. The platform pulsed. The crowd held its breath. And somewhere, deep in the hall, laughter was gone. A sudden hush fell over the hall. The murmuring faded, folding into silence so complete it felt like the air itself had stopped moving. The crowd shifted, bending inward as though drawn by a single thought. From high above, a deep voice rang out, calm, deliberate, resonant. "Enough." Headmaster Vale stepped forward, his form vast and folding in slow waves of golden light. Every shape in the hall bent toward him, folding inward with reverence. The hum of the platform beneath Kalen stilled, all sound stilled. Kalen felt Zyra's hand tighten on his shoulder. Her glow pulsed sharply. "This is it," she murmured. "The trial." Vale's voice carried across the hall. "You stand at the center of our choice, human. You have been made a question. Now you must answer it." The crowd shifted again, folding tighter, shapes bending toward him. Murmurs rose, voices layered into a chorus of intent and curiosity. Somewhere in the crowd, Mirox's voice broke out sharply. "They will test him openly. Let him prove his claim." Land's laughter rippled softly through the hall. "This is no longer sport. This is challenge." Vale's gaze fixed on Kalen, steady and deep. "You have moved through our dance without knowing our rules. You have forced us to choose. Now you must prove yourself worthy of standing here." Kalen swallowed. "How?" Vale's voice was calm, deliberate. "By the trial of the center. You will dance not for yourself nor for them, but for the claim you make. Show us who you are, human." The hall shivered. The crowd bent inward, forming a perfect ring around the platform. Shapes glowed sharp and intense, their voices folding into a low hum of expectation. Zyra's glow flared beside him. "They will test your resolve," she whispered. "The trial is not just movement, it is truth." Kalen's jaw tightened. "Then I'll be honest." Vale stepped closer. His voice rang out above the hush. "Begin." The music rose again, deep and deliberate, a living pulse that seemed to enter Kalen's chest. The platform beneath him shifted, tilting subtly, urging him forward. Shapes bent closer, folding inward, their murmurs growing. Zyra stepped beside him. "They will not only watch you, human. They will challenge you. Your choice will be tested." Kalen looked at her. "Then I will stand my ground." The platform pulsed. Shapes bent toward him, folding sharper. A tall figure stepped forward from the crowd, one of the Academy's senior dancers, its glow sharp and deliberate. Its voice rang out, "Human. If you claim your place, prove it now. Dance for truth or yield your claim." Kalen's breath was steady. "Then I dance." He stepped forward. His movements were deliberate, slow. The platform beneath him pulsed with each step, light rippling outward in waves. Shapes bent closer still, murmuring in layered voices. Zyra mirrored him, her glow folding softly with his movement. From the crowd, voices rose sharply. Half spoke in challenge, half in admiration. The murmuring grew into a chorus. Mirox's voice rang out sharp and amused. "The trial begins. Let him answer without faltering." Land's laughter rippled softly through the air. "Yes, let him answer." Kalen moved again, slower now, letting each step speak. His breath was steady. He felt the weight of every gaze upon him, but he did not falter. Light spread outward from his feet, folding through the crowd. Shapes bent inward, folding tighter around the platform. The energy of the hall rose, a deliberate pulse that matched his heartbeat. Zyra's voice came softly. "They are testing you, not your skill but your choice." Kalen glanced up. "Then I will make it clear." The platform rose higher, shapes bent inward. The murmuring became sharper, voices rising in layered questions. Somewhere in the crowd, a voice rang clear. "The human claims the center, but will they hold it?" Kalen stepped forward again, each movement deliberate, certain. Zyra mirrored him, her glow pulsing softly beside him. Vale's voice came again, deep and calm. "The trial will decide not just his place, but our own." The crowd bent closer, folding inward until the air felt charged with decision. Kalen felt the weight of their attention pressing on him. He breathed slowly, each step certain, each movement speaking. Zyra's hand found his again. "This is your moment." Kalen nodded. "Then I choose to stand." The platform pulsed brighter. Shapes bent inward, murmuring rising to a chorus. The energy in the hall surged. From somewhere high above, Vale's voice rang out. "Watch closely. The human answers the trial of the center." Kalen stepped forward once more. Light spread outward. The crowd held its breath, and the dance began again. The hall was still, but the stillness was heavy, a living weight that pressed in from every shape, every sound. The murmuring had stopped. Shapes bent inward so close that the air seemed to hum with anticipation. Every cluster of light was focused on Kalen. Zyra stood beside him, her glow steady but intense, folding softly over him like a shield. Mirox and Lanth had withdrawn to the edges, their shapes folding into quiet arcs of light, watching with something close to fascination. Above all, Headmaster Vale's presence was a stillness deeper than the silence, a patient gravity that drew every eye. Vale's voice rang out deep and deliberate. "The trial reaches its peak. The human must answer not with steps but with truth. Will you claim the center, human? Will you stand?" Kalen's breath was steady. "I will stand." The platform pulsed beneath him, glowing softly at first, then brighter, until the entire circle seemed to radiate light. The shapes of the crowd bent closer, folding tighter. Murmurs rose again, a low, deliberate chorus that vibrated in the air. Zyra stepped closer. "They will test your claim now. This is no longer just dance. It is declaration." Kalen glanced at her. "Then I will speak without words." The music rose again, deeper now, a living wave that seemed to enter his chest. The platform shifted beneath his feet, tilting slightly, urging him forward. Shapes bent toward him, folding and unfolding in patterns of deliberate attention. From the crowd, a voice rang out sharply. "Human, this is your choice, speak or yield." Kalen's voice was quiet but certain. "I speak with my steps." He stepped forward. Each movement was deliberate, each step measured. Light spread outward beneath his feet, rippling through the platform and into the crowd. Shapes bent closer, folding toward him as though drawn by the weight of his choice. Zyra mirrored him beside him, her glow pulsing in time with his heartbeat. Mirox and Lanth drifted further back, their forms folding into silence. The murmuring of the crowd rose, layered and intense, some voices questioning, some challenging, others in wonder. From above, Vale's voice rang out again. "The human speaks, let them show their truth." Kalen moved again, slower now, letting each step flow with intention. The light beneath him grew stronger, rippling outward like water disturbed. Shapes bent tighter, their murmuring rising to a chorus of questions and quiet awe. Zyra's voice came softly beside him. "They are deciding now, not whether you stand but what you stand for." Kalen glanced at her, then out to the crowd. He felt the weight of every gaze pressing down, every whisper folding into him. Somewhere deep in his chest, he found a stillness, a clarity. "I stand," he said quietly, "not to conquer, not to follow, but to be here as I am." The hush fell instantly. Shapes bent forward, folding in silence. The murmuring stopped. The crowd was not moving. They were listening. Vale's voice broke the silence. "Then stand, human, and show us what that means." The platform pulsed sharply beneath him. Kalen stepped forward again, slow and deliberate. Light spread outward in waves, folding through the crowd, touching every shape. The murmuring rose again, but now it was different, softer, deliberate, almost reverent. Zyra's hand found his again. "This is your truth, hold it." Kalen nodded. His steps became steadier, each movement a quiet declaration. Shapes bent toward him, folding softly, their murmurs blending into a single, deliberate tone. The energy in the hall shifted, heavier, more purposeful. Mirok stepped forward, his voice low but certain. "The human claims the center. This changes everything." Land's laughter was softer now, like a ripple through water. "Yes. This night will be remembered." The crowd bent inward tighter, their voices folding into silence again. The platform pulsed brighter, lifting Kalen slightly. Every shape was focused on him. Headmaster Vale's voice rang out one final time, deep and calm. "The trial is complete. The human has spoken. Zephyra IX will remember this night." A ripple passed through the crowd, folding outward, as if the air itself exhaled. Shapes bent away slightly, murmuring quietly. The hush returned, but now it was filled with something different: acceptance, curiosity, and something like awe. Zyra stepped beside Kalen, her glow steady and warm. "You did it." Kalen looked at her. "What did I do?" She smiled faintly. "You stood, and they are listening now." The platform pulsed softly beneath him. The crowd bent inward one last time, folding in deliberate silence. Somewhere deep in the hall, a single voice rose above the rest. "The human